Sidekick.
That's a current product, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's right. Well, it was very interesting. I don't know if you're interested in that one, but that's a more general audience thing. What happened, so our first product was Turbo Pascal, and so we built this product, then sold some toolboxes. Really, our second product was a Turbo Pascal toolbox. And then what happened was very interesting. The inspiration to Sidekick came from a meeting that happened at Apple Computer. Turbo Pascal started becoming famous, and I got called by the people at Apple who said, "Oh, we'd like to show you our next machine." And that was in late 1983. It was probably in December.
Was that Lisa or was it Macintosh?
Oh, it was Macintosh, and they called me and showed me Macintosh. And Macintosh had this little Apple menu on the left-hand side, and when you look at the Apple menu, it had a little calculator, had different things. It wasn't very handy, but it had all these things. And as I looked at that, I said, it's very interesting. People are buying computers, and they're paying thousands of dollars for these computers, and at the same time, they have a notepad next to their machine, they have a calculator next to their machine, they have a calendar next to their machine, and they seem not to be able to integrate the time planning, the address book, the notepad functionality into the use of their personal computer. And said, what if we built a product that really, really did that for them and help them, manage their time, get better organized, and do all these things. And we created this product called Sidekick, which we released in June of 1984 and started work on in basically January, February of 1984. And it became an instant hit and became one of the most popular products ever. Now, some people say it became one of the most copied products ever, which is probably true, but it helped the company get propelled to the next level.
Sure, which is the mainstream as opposed to, in fact, I was absolutely astounded that you could become as successful as you became with a non-mainstream product, with a very highly specialized product that's just for basically computer nerds, if you will.
Computer geeks absolutely are developers, and that comes from the fact, though, that in the early days, as I said earlier, a lot of people were hobbyists and were hackers, and Turbo Pascal was really the ideal hobbyist development tool, and that became, really, really interesting. And the irony is that Sidekick pioneered a new area, which is personal information manager or desktop organizers, etc. In that this area is now, a lot of people are predicting, is going to be one of the most explosive growth areas because everybody wants a calendar, everybody wants an organizer, everybody wants to manage contacts, etc., beyond word processing and spreadsheets and all that. And that's the first product that we are now at Starfish, the new company I'm involved with, pushing, and its a major success right now is the Sidekick for Windows, which is selling like hotcakes and is in every software store in the world.
And that's basically it's an improved version because you keep adding improvements, I guess, as you have the opportunity.
Oh, it's a totally redesigned version. It's built for the Windows operating environment, and but it uses the philosophy that we always kept at Borland, and I think that's really prevailing in everything we do at Starfish, which is what we call software craftsmanship. It's the idea of making software fit on one diskette. A lot of what's happening today is that the weight of the software you buy at Egghead or at Fry's or at CompUSA is many times heavier than the machine on which you run it these days.
And with all the manuals and everything.
Oh yeah, the products take 25 diskettes and all that, and this idea of software craftsmanship, and we call it slimware. The idea that we didn't start this industry to build these monstrosities of programs, and it's time that we go back to programs that really are useful and that fit on one disk and that don't use up 25 megabyte hard disk space. And so a lot of people are thinking that way, is that the industry has gone to build kind of similar to mainframe software, nuclear power plants, and one of the things that Borland always did, and certainly is in part of the mission of Starfish, is to focus on this idea of slimware and the concept of software craftsmanship.
We're talking with Philippe Kahn, chairman of Borland International, and I guess you must be CEO of the new software company called Starfish.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You are based in Starfish is also based in Scotts Valley.
Yeah, we're only 35 people today, but we're growing really fast. A year ago we were 3 people, so it's going pretty fast.
So you started it that long ago?
Yeah, that company is about a year old. Yeah.
Well, we will be opening the phone lines probably in 10 or 15 minutes. I know I said that about a half hour ago, but there's a lot of ground to cover here with Philippe Kahn right here on Red Hot News Talk, AM 1080 KSCO. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Now, at your favorite local KFC, you can get 12 pieces of chicken, 2 orders of baked beans, 2 coleslaws, and 2 cornbreads. That's enough food for at least 6 people, all for only $18.49. Be sure to ask for this special. It's not advertised anywhere else. Everybody needs some KFC. Get yours tonight. Love that chicken. Everybody needs a little KFC. Everybody needs a little
It's no secret that we live in a part of the world blessed with more brilliantly creative and technologically advanced minds per square mile than perhaps anywhere on our fine planet. Don't you think it's about time there was a live radio talk show which featured these personalities sharing their experiences, ideas, and philosophies? We do. That's why KSCO has created RadioNet, a talk radio gateway to the future. RadioNet airs live via satellite from KSCO studios Sundays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Tune in, chip in, and get stimulated. Silicon Valley and Central California to the KSCO Saturday Special, 15 before 11. And we've got an hour and 15 minutes remaining in this special edition of the KSCO Saturday Special. Our guest is Philippe Kahn, the chairman of the board of Borland International, a company which he founded and built. And he is also involved in a new software company called Starfish. Is it Starfish Enterprises? Is that
Starfish Enterprise is the joke. You know, there's a Star Trek joke. The Starfish Enterprise.
Oh, okay.
I know Starfish Software.
And Starfish is also based here in Scotts Valley. Before the break, we were talking about the history of Borland, and we've gotten as far as Borland being a small, essentially mail-order product company that basically took its orders over the telephone, over a toll-free 800 number based upon advertising in industry, computer industry magazines. How did you take Borland to the next level, Philippe?
Well, I think the key were the two fundamentally first products. Interestingly enough, Turbo Pascal helped the company exist. Sidekick built the company to a large extent because the volumes were astounding and gave a lot of presence to the company because, as you said, Turbo Pascal initially was basically focusing on a small portion of the user community, whereas Sidekick allowed anybody to do to use this product to be more productive on their machines. And then we started to actually exploit all these ideas. We built more development tools. We built more products to work with Sidekick. We built SuperKey. And we continued to do that. And I think that the growth of the company, the success of the company came through following very simple principles. We believed in software craftsmanship. We had this stuff that we called the laws of thermodynamics, and it was called quality, speed, power, and price. No matter what we did, it had to have quality, speed, power, and price. And to a large extent, this is still a very, very, very valid formula: quality, speed, power, and value, maybe. And obviously, that kept on growing the company, and the company grew without any venture capital and without any outside investment from 1983, where we started the company, to fundamentally 1991, when we acquired acquired Ashton Tate, if you want, from $0 to $200 million, basically, from all these great products and some acquisitions that we made, and we acquired a few companies in Silicon Valley and made their products successful, more or less, and kept them growing.
Now, what is $200 million, that figure? What does that mean? A company that's valued at $200 million or
no, that was $200 million in revenues. And $200 million in revenues for a software company back in 1991 was pretty good. And that was kind of the growth of the company. That's revenues of $200 million. The company's valuation, capitalized value, went as high over time as over $2 billion. That was a few years ago.
Did you ever dream?
Well, what's interesting here is that was never a goal. I have to say that the size or valuation, et cetera, at the time was really not a goal. It was, the initial thing was to get a job and to write some great software and be successful.
I feel like I'm talking to Doug Michaels, who was sitting in that chair about 6 weeks ago, the co-founder of Santa Cruz operation. He was telling me essentially the same thing. I feel like I'm talking to Steve Wozniak, who told me years ago when I first met him as part of the Apple computer users group, that it was never intended to make a bunch of money. It just sort of happened.
Well, I think that what happens is that the ventures that are successful because they're focusing on something else than money, and money becomes a byproduct. I always tell people, if you just want to make money, just make money, go and buy a printing press and put it in your basement and print money, That's probably a more direct way to make money. But I think
that may not get away with it, right?
Well, usually you don't, and I think that's the point, is that, if you just want to make money, you're probably not going to get away with it unless you want to be a stockbroker or trader on Wall Street, which is perfectly fine, but it's another type of business. And then, again, you got to be pretty good at it. So, I think that in high tech, it's absolutely clear that most of the successful companies were built by people who had a vision, a technology-based vision, a vision that related to customers and translated it into a successful commercial venture. But the commercial part was not the main objective. The main objective was to deliver usually something absolutely innovative, great value, and great service to customers. Many times to create an industry or to help grow an industry, and as a consequence, companies become valuable, people start making money. But that can't be a goal.
Wow. Okay, now there was a quantum leap from the 800 number call-in, order your product, to having product that you distributed like other software companies did, so that they were on shelves in CompUSA and so forth, as you said. That's where I'm a little hazy. I mean, how did that happen? And it's sort of like you changed. This is what it appears from an outsider's point of view, at least to me. And it seemed like you changed your modus operandi from being real lean and mean to being more traditional and having lots of employees and big buildings and things like that. That happened somewhere along the line, and how did that happen, and so forth?
I think it happens more than anything else. What happens is that, to some extent, your revenue rate is proportional, or the number of employees you have is to some extent proportional to your revenue rate. As a matter of fact, it's a good measure for software companies to say that you're doing well if each employee brings about $250,000 revenues per year in average.
I would agree to that. Yes.
Well, it's not that simple. In other words, that the measure is that if you're below 220, you're probably losing money, and if you're at 220, you're breaking even. 250, you're making good money. So it's actually a fairly used measure, at least for software companies, comparable to a Borland, Microsoft, or a Starfish, for example. And what happens is as you grow, and as we did all this direct selling and this direct advertising and direct mail and direct marketing, what's been happening was that the distributors, the guys who sell to the resellers, and they weren't any Comp USAs at the time, I got to take you back to 1984. There were Bite Shops, there was Computerland, there was Businessland. Those were the stores at the time. There was no Egghead Software Fries or barely Fries. And these guys started knocking at our door. We want your product. I refused to sell to distribution for about a year, because the first thing they wanted was 60% discount. And I felt that we were much better off getting the full amount for our product from mail order than having to give distribution a significant chunk of the business at the time, because I felt that distribution at the time didn't add any value, and that most people who wanted to buy software could actually buy it directly from us. And, the goal was to get to a point where people would place an order, and within 48 hours, they'd receive a little box on their desk that they could install on their machines, and that would work. And I felt that distribution didn't bring that much added value. And it took about a year to actually get into distribution, and we did get eventually into distribution, and that's when the models become not as clean. At first, when you have a direct mail model, you can you have a complete control on what's happening in your business, and as soon as you start having distribution, you have people who have inventories, you have returns, and so the business becomes much more complex. And so we hired someone to manage that, and actually we hired someone from distribution from a company called SoftCell at the time, which is now called Maricel, and that was a gentleman called Spencer Layton, who stayed with the company for a while, and he's now with Sybase, I think. And Spencer helped a lot by building up distribution. He's the guy who built distribution for Borland and really got us into distribution and changed our business model from a direct marketing model.
Caution, speed camera ahead.
To a broad distributed model.
Okay, and that was in
That transition occurred between the years 1984 and say 1986, where we became broadly distributed.
And it wasn't until what year that you acquired your first other company, where Borland bought some other stuff? Was it Ash and Tate, or was that something before?
No, that was like the first company we bought. Interestingly enough, was a company called Analytica, and Analytica had a product called Reflex, which was a very, very nice what we call analytical database, and we acquired them. They were a venture capital backed company, and they did very well with the product. Reflex became very successful, and the people who wrote Reflex actually did very well. One of them actually is now Microsoft's Brad Silverberg. He was an engineering guy on Reflex. He now owns the Windows business at Microsoft, and Brad and his team did a very good job. That was Reflex was a good product. I think that over time there's still wherever I go, there's still Reflex users everywhere, and it's a product with an excellent reputation, and that's actually done very well.
Okay, and where along the line did you have any kind of a change in your personal focus? I mean, all during this time you were chairman, chief executive officer, president. You were everybody equated Borland with Philippe, and as time went on, I mean, you became a nationally known public figure. Regularly quoted in the Wall Street Journal, regularly quoted in computer magazines, of course. And where were you in all this? I mean, did you, as time goes on, went on, want to acquire more companies, more product? What was your plan for the growth of the company, or did that just sort of take place, in spite of what you wanted or did?
I think that, in this business, what happens is you grow your